Coming up next on the Holistic Wealth Podcast.
And of course, for the top countries, I'm just going to call out the top 5 because we know we're listened to in over 80 countries worldwide. So our top 5 countries: number 1, the United States; number 2, Canada; in third place this year, drum roll, we have Finland. So big shout out to everyone in Finland who tuned into the Holistic Wealth Podcast this year. We're so happy to have you listening in, and we're hoping that next year we can have a real big competition.
You're listening to the Holistic Wealth Podcast with host Keisha Blair, author of Holistic Wealth and founder of the Institute on Holistic Wealth. And now, here's your host, Keisha Blair.
Welcome to the Holistic Wealth Podcast, and I'm your host, Keisha Blair. And today we have another exciting episode of the podcast. It's our last podcast episode for 2024. And we've done this year together. I'm so thankful for our faithful listeners who have supported us during 2024 and beyond. And I know you will be there in 2025 as well as we walk this holistic wealth journey together. Before I get into this exciting episode, I love countdown episodes. They're so exciting, especially end of year countdowns. I would just like to also state that this podcast is sponsored by the Institute on Holistic Wealth, and you can visit the website at www.instituteonholisticwealth for a range of courses and resources to empower you on your holistic wealth journey. And of course, if you've read the book that was the impetus for this podcast, that's Holistic Wealth, expanded and updated book. I hope that you have shared it with friends, gifted some copies this holiday season. It's not too late. And also, if you've read the book already, just a reminder to please share a review on Amazon. This book was the impetus for this podcast. It's the reason why this podcast exists. Now, before I get into the top 10 episodes of 2024, I just wanted to give you some global stats on the podcast in terms of 2024, our reach, where our listeners are located, because every single year it varies and we're reaching new audiences in places we'd never imagine. And it's unbelievable that our most popular city, so I'm going to talk about our most popular city in terms of listenership in 2024 was Helsinki. And I want to give a shout out to Helsinki for being our most popular city in 2024. I'm excited about that. We're reaching places that we never thought we would. And so I want to give you the top 5 cities. Of course, our most listened country is still the United States of America. So when we break it down by city and country, it is different and it does differ, which makes sense. But our most listened to country is still the United States of America by far, by leaps and bounds. But let's just go through the most popular cities first, because it's so interesting, and I'm glad my home city is included. Shout out to my home city of Ottawa. That's the capital of Canada. And I'm so glad that we're represented. We're in the top 2. So number 1, our most popular city for listeners is Helsinki. Number 2, Ottawa, Ontario. Number 3, San Jose, California. Shout out to San Jose, California for being our 3rd most listened to city in the world. Shout out to number 4, Los Angeles, California for 2024. Both San Jose, California and Los Angeles, California made it into our most popular cities in the top 5 for the Holistic Wealth Podcast. And then at number 5, we have Cleveland, Ohio. So giving a shout out to Cleveland and everyone in Cleveland, Ohio this morning or today, giving you all listeners in those top 5 cities a big shout out. And of course, we know New York City is also a big city for the Holistic Wealth Podcast. Again, Atlanta is another area. Greenboro, North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm just calling out random places that I know in the past we've had tons of listeners, and I want to just shout out to you again, because I know you're faithful. Maybe in 2024, some places didn't make it into the top 5, but that doesn't mean that it's no less significant, because we know there's a huge listenership in those places as well. And of course, for the top countries, I'm just going to call out the top 5 because we know we're listened to in over 80 countries worldwide. So the Holistic Wealth Podcast is listened to in over 80 countries worldwide. And I just want to talk about the top 5 because it's just interesting. I think it varies, but the United States is always the top country by leaps and bounds. And it triples and quadruples the amount of downloads, even the second most popular, which is Canada. No surprise there. So our top 5 countries, number 1, the United States, number 2, Canada. In third place this year, drum roll, we have Finland. So big shout out to everyone in Finland who tuned into the Holistic Wealth podcast this year. We're so happy to have you listening in, and we're hoping that next year we can have a real big competition, right? For our top 5 countries. Although we know the United States is going to win again. But of course, we can always try number 4, the United Kingdom. No surprise there. The UK is always in our top 5 every single year for the Holistic Wealth podcast. And I want to give a shout out to everyone in the United Kingdom, whichever city, whether you're listening in from London, Brixton, whichever city you're listening in from. We just want to give a big shout out to everyone in the United Kingdom, everyone in the UK. Global Holistic Wealth Day is also celebrated heavily in the UK, in the United States, in Canada, in Finland. And now we're going to our 5th spot, which goes to Norway. Norway. So shouting out to Norway for 2025, you were our 5th most listened to city. And we're so glad that people from all these different countries around the world are tuning in, are starting their holistic wealth journeys, are embracing holistic wealth, are embracing Global Holistic Wealth Day, and, really transforming their lives in terms of holistic wealth every single day. Now, I'm going to get into our countdown, and, it's amazing when we can do this and talk about why these episodes are so popular with our listeners, because they span the gamut of holistic wealth, from health to well-being to self-care to finances to overall every single aspect of holistic wealth is covered in our top 10 episode every single year. And it's amazing the range of experts and why it resonates so well with our audience. And you're going to see that health is also a big topic for our listeners. No less. I expected no less. It's a big topic for me too, as the host of the Holistic Wealth podcast. It's covered, very well on this podcast. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce number 1. And it comes as no surprise to me that Better Sex During Perimenopause with Dr. Laurie Brotto is the number 1. And she was an amazing guest. She's been a guest of the podcast several times, so you can check out her episodes, which are so informative. We've done several episodes with her that deal with perimenopause and menopause, because it's such a big topic for women and it's not covered as extensively in the media as it should. So a lot of women stumble with even getting a diagnosis, with even getting to the point where they're given the diagnosis that, yes, you're going through either perimenopause or menopause. So we just want to thank our guest for really bringing this topic forward for our listeners so that they can be enlightened and inspired and learn more about their journey. And so our second most popular episodes, and of course, the estimated downloads for that one was 50,000 plus, just to let you know. It was also one of our top listened to podcasts on a range of platforms. Number 2, Global Holistic Wealth Day 2024. Massive success, going viral around the world. That was a solo episode with yours truly. I remember being so excited that in 2024, Global Holistic Wealth Day really took a life of its own. I remember waking up that morning on April 9th. As you know, Global Holistic Wealth Day is celebrated on April 9th, and Global Holistic Wealth Week is celebrated during the week of April 9th. And I remember waking up that morning and seeing it go viral around the world. I saw videos of children dancing and singing in India. I saw people in South Africa participating. Every single country in the world, it seemed, was recognizing Global Holistic Wealth Day. That was a tremendous moment for all of us. And honestly, just this recap of Global Holistic Wealth Day, international celebrations captured the spirit of community and impact with global events and partnerships it reached a massive audience of an estimated downloads of 48,000 plus downloads. Now, I want to impress upon everyone, please mark your calendars for April 9th if you haven't already. Celebrate Global Holistic Wealth Day 2025 when it comes up. Start preparing from now. There's so many resources through this podcast and through the book and the Institute on Holistic Wealth. And celebrate it at home, at work, in your communities, wherever, which other clubs, organizations, book clubs. Have your book club meetings for Global Holistic Wealth Week. So just going forward, number 3, how to cope with depression, tips and strategies. And that was a popular episode. I got emails from psychologists. I got emails from different people telling me how impactful this episode was and how much it touched them. It tackles a universal issue, and that episode had so many actionable strategies. This episode offered hope for those who are suffering and support during challenging times. And I know this time of year during the holidays can present a challenge for so many people who are going through grief and loss, who have lost loved ones. And through the Holistic Wealth podcast and the Holistic Wealth book, we just want to recognize that you are so loved. I remember starting this journey from a place of grief, and it's a journey that I know each and every one of us will live at some point. And so during the holiday season, we want to remember those who are going through a tough time with the loss of loved ones, with grief, with a breakup, a relationship breakup, or a divorce, a job loss, whatever life-altering setback you're going through. Remember that this Holistic Wealth framework can be a lifeline for you. And if you tune into some of these episodes like this one, and there are several other episodes where we cover mental health, it will be a great resource for you, especially during this time. It's great to cuddle up and just listen to some inspiring episodes as you take the time to reflect towards the end of this year. So you can check out that episode and share it with friends. I know you know of those in your network who will benefit from this episode. And we have an estimated download of 45,000 people for that episode. Number 4, navigating cold and flu season with Dr. Ken Redcross. Now, Dr. Ken Redcross has been a frequent guest on this podcast, and he has so many inspiring episodes as it relates to our health and well-being. And he is a board certified internal physician who practices in New York, but he does visits to other people in different countries, to other clients that he has. And this episode was number 4. It ranked so high because it has so many practical tips for staying healthy during cold and flu season, and with very good tips. So many tips that people don't think about. So many things that I didn't even think about. So if you tune in, and you know what? It is cold and flu season right now. So many people are suffering with a cold. At my daughter's school, nearly her entire class is sick. So I know for parents listening in, I know for other people listening in, we're in the midst of cold and flu season. So this is a really timely episode to be in the top 10 because you can get some tips and strategies from that. And estimated downloads for that was 43,000. Number 5, perimenopause signs and symptoms and sexual intimacy, again with Dr. Lori. And we enjoyed this episode so much because she addressed health and intimacy issues during perimenopause that are often overlooked in the mainstream media. Like, for instance, I remember her talking about not getting enough sleep, not getting enough REM sleep, which is a big problem for women during perimenopause and into menopause, and why it's critical for women to try to get that sleep in terms of health and well-being and sexual intimacy. She had so many good and wonderful strategies. So I implore you again to tune into this episode too and share it with friends who need this type of information. Number 6, another solo episode with yours truly, and that's financial abuse versus financial infidelity. And that was a big one because we really went through the differences. What is financial infidelity? What is financial abuse? Then we gave a case study of a woman who went through, I guess it's both financial infidelity and financial abuse. And we walked through that case study. We walked listeners through, and it really focused on financial resilience and why we need to know the signs of both, know how to differentiate them, and know what strategies to put in place to protect ourselves. And this also gave listeners the tools to create financial resilience, to recognize the signs, and to really know how to maintain boundaries, know how to protect themselves financially. Estimated downloads 38,000 plus. Now, number 7, how to opt into holistic wealth in 2024. This was one of our very first episodes of the Holistic Wealth Podcast for 2024. And it was a memorable one. I remember doing this solo episode at the beginning of the year and really challenging everyone to think about their own white plastic bag moments, because we all go through these life-altering setbacks and these white plastic bag moments. And how you overcome your white plastic bag moments has a lot to do with a lot of the teachings on this podcast and the Holistic Wealth book, which I would again repeat just to reiterate how important it is to this journey. And if you haven't yet, please get your copy. But this episode really offered a comprehensive guide to embracing holistic wealth in all aspects of life and inspiring listeners to really make meaningful changes. So when we talk about opting into holistic wealth, whether it's in 2024, coming up in 2025, I would really impress upon you to just listen to this episode, share it with your friends. If you haven't yet left a review for the podcast on Apple or Spotify, YouTube, then please do leave us a review, a quick review, just one line. Estimated downloads 36,000 plus. Number 8, holistic wealth at work, empowering employees through workplace wellness and leadership training. This was a very recent episode, one that we still want people to really tune into, because workplace well-being, workplace wellness is such a big deal. As I stated in this episode, over 400 million people make life and death decisions every single day at work around the world. So it's important that we empower employees through workplace wellness and leadership training for leaders so that they can empower others to also make empowering decisions for themselves. And of course, there's a whole lot of strategies in that episode as well. And estimated downloads was 34,000. Number 9 was another episode that I thoroughly enjoyed myself. It was one with former CNN senior political analyst Kirsten Powers. The way we live in the United States is not normal. Why we are buying land in Italy. A very popular episode. And of course, many people might be thinking of making a move in 2025. If you're making a move, then this episode is really a good episode to tune in. So again, if you are making a move in 2025, then this is a good episode. It really gives some good tips on retirement as well, and moving abroad, things you need to take into consideration, things you need to plan for. So whether it's Italy, Jamaica, Mexico, Spain, Australia, the UK, somewhere else in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Dubai, it doesn't matter what country. Don't look at it as just Italy focused information. Kirsten Powers gives some amazing considerations, things to look out for, even your dental health and how that compares, and doing that kind of analysis. So check out that episode. So the estimated downloads for that one was 32,000. Number 10, how to create holistic wealth at home. That was another solo episode and it did so well. I didn't realize that it would have resonated with so many people, but you know what? There's so much going on with our lives right now that creating holistic wealth at home should be a priority for everyone, especially going into 2025. When we think about how important our home life is as the center of our lives and the people who we live with at home, which are normally the most important people in our lives, your spouse, your children, maybe grandparents. Many of us right now are taking care of teens as well as seniors. We're in that sandwich generation for some of us. Some of us are heading there. And so creating holistic wealth at home is really important. When we talk about caregiving, when we talk about caring about our kids and creating a welcoming, caring atmosphere, and we talk about domestic responsibilities between spouses, when we talk about even doing your money date nights and financial organization and how you split your financial duties as a couple, All of that is wrapped up in Holistic Wealth at Home. And not only that, but most importantly, our spiritual lives and how we incorporate that into our home and in our home life. And I want to challenge everyone who's listening in, as you think about holistic wealth, as you think about 2025 into 2026, make holistic wealth at home a priority for you. Make it one of your goals, your resolutions. Get the book. If you need to take a course at the Institute, really embrace this, because this is where it starts and it ends. This is where the home is that nucleus. And I also refer to spiritual self-renewal as that nucleus of our lives. And spiritual self-renewal, renew ourselves each day, our marriages, our lives, our kids. That really gives us the energy to go on, gives us a meaningful, purposeful life. So please, everyone, tune into this episode. Really make it a goal. This episode is a practical guide to creating balance and well-being within the home. And this episode really resonated with a lot of families this year. It has an estimated downloads of 30,000. And I am so glad to give you these top 10 episodes because, as I said, they span the gamut, and it really gives a gist of how rounded and holistic the listenership for the Holistic Wealth podcast is. And again, if you haven't yet left a review for the Holistic Wealth podcast, please do so before 2024 ends. Put it on your to-do list to really just give a little small review, quick review for the Holistic Wealth podcast. If you haven't yet left a review for the book, Holistic Wealth Expanded, Updated, or even the first edition, or even the workbook, the Holistic Wealth workbook. I know so many of you bought the workbook, but haven't gotten a chance to leave a review. Leave a review for all three if you haven't yet, or one or two, whichever one you haven't yet gotten a chance to do. It's just a quick, gentle reminder for all of us about why these things are important. More people see it, more people get to embrace holistic wealth and find out about this wonderful journey. And again, thank you so much for walking this journey in 2024 with us. See you in 2025. I can't wait for more inspiring episodes of the Holistic Wealth podcast. It's touched so many lives across the globe. Share this episode with at least 3 people this holiday season to do your part, spread the message. And of course, add Global Holistic Wealth Day to your calendars to celebrate with us next year, and tell a friend. You can even forward the information on the Global Holistic Wealth Day website and plan your own activities. Let us know what you're planning and what your plans are, and we can shout you out in our upcoming episodes for Global Holistic Wealth Day as we count down to Global Holistic Wealth Day in 2025. Have a wonderful holiday season, a wonderful Christmas to every single one of you listening in, and Happy New Year. I'm looking forward to connecting with you for the first Holistic Wealth podcast episode of the year coming up. Have a great holiday season, everyone. Love you all. Take care.
The Holistic Wealth Podcast with Keisha Blair is brought to you by... Have you joined the Institute on Holistic Wealth? If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Choose your membership plan at the Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. As a member, you'll get access to free worksheets, advice, coaching, and an intentional design workshop. As you start to live a more holistically wealthy lifestyle, you'll want to stay for a very long time. So go to Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. If you haven't read the book yet, pick up a copy of the award-winning best-selling Holistic Wealth 36 Life Lessons to help you recover from disruption, find your life purpose, and achieve financial freedom.